Hey guys, so a fantastic channel called Total Level that's run by an awesome Canadian tuber has nominated me to get involved in the top 10 games of all time video list. So I'm going to show you my top 10. At the end I'm going to nominate 5 tubers who, if they haven't already been nominated and they're up for the challenge, I would love to hear their top 10 as well. So let's get stuck in and I'll show you what I got. So at number 10, and I'll be honest, I was quite surprised when I laid out all 10 games. There was 2 sports titles in there, but this one is one of my absolute go-tos when I just want a quick pick up and play game. 30 minutes, an hour, simples, stonking game. Virtua Tennis 2 for the Dreamcast. Bit of like an arcadey feel to it, not too serious. You got some classic players in there. You got Timmy Henman and a few others, and it's just really good fun to play. Highly recommended. And at number 9, and I had to pick a shmup, there's just one shmup in the top 10. I nearly went for Gunbird 2, and I was also toying between that and Gigawing, which I recently grabbed from on a retro tip. I've got it in a few different formats, but Pete kindly sold it to me for the Dreamcast, which is awesome. But I opted for this one, GameCube's Ikaruga. You can get it on a few formats. I think you can probably buy it a lot cheaper now on the Switch through the digital store. But an amazing shooter. You can change the polarity of your ship between black and white, and the enemy fire, basically, if it's the same colour as your ship, it gets absorbed, doesn't hurt you. But if it's an opposing colour, it kind of takes you out. So yeah, it's very, very difficult, challenging game, but equally very rewarding as you crunch your way through it. And the soundtrack is just beautiful, glorious graphics, and just a really, really good fun game. So as part of the top 10s, I did set myself a bit of a rule that I'd only pick one game from each franchise, just so there was, otherwise a particular series could have really dominated the top 10. And I knew I wanted to get a Metroid game in there. And if you'd asked me earlier this year or last year, it probably would have been, Metroid Fusion or Metroid Prime. But right here, right now, it's Metroid Dread. An absolutely awesome game. Builds on really the foundation of the preceding, certainly the 2D Metroid games. You start off as Samus. You've got very limited weaponry, very limited kind of armor, but you crunch your way through all the puzzles, the beautifully looking levels, some of the horrifically ugly and kind of taking over the screen bosses. Frustrating at times, but you do, on every try, you inch forward, and then eventually you kind of get through and you're on to the next section. Had a fantastic time in this game. Took me forever to do it. It certainly wasn't a bloody speed run. I don't think I 100%'d it, but I had a really good time playing it. Highly recommended. At number 7, we've finally got a 3DS game. Thought I'd better sneak one in. It's part of the Zero Escape trilogy, and it's Virtue's Last Reward. It's a game that I only played for the first time at the beginning of this year, but it's absolutely tremendous. I'm no kind of spoilers involved, but you wake up, you're with a group of strangers, you've got puzzles to solve, but depending on the route that you take, but moreover how you solve those puzzles and how you treat some of the other people that are in the game with you, kind of determines very different endings, and it can be very dark in places. A real kind of morally challenging game, but an absolutely stonking title. Creeping up in price, but if you do get a chance to play it, then I really recommend it. Number 6, we've got a fighting game, and this game really goes back to my arcade roots, be it down good old Southend Seafront in the arcades there, and also when the fair was in town on an annual basis. They actually had a tent that was full of arcades. This was one, and this was one that was always surrounded by loads of gamers. An absolute stonking game that I probably spent far too much money on. And it is Street Fighter 2. I've opted today for the Turbo Edition, but to be honest, any of the Street Fighter 2s are pretty awesome. Obviously, with this one, you can adjust the speed, you can play all the bosses. You've got a broader range of playable characters than you did with the original Street Fighter 2 World Warrior. But just absolutely brilliant. Really got me you know, really kind of training myself up on doing all the special moves. Even now, I will always, you know, divert back to a kind of a Ryu or a Ken. If I'm feeling a bit adventurous, then perhaps a Guile or a Chun-Li. But stonking game, you know, single player, fantastic. But you know, against your mates with a few beers, it's gonna get rowdy. It's gonna get rowdy on screen and off screen. Street Fighter 2, that's where it's at. So my pick for number 5 really made it very, very easy in the whole Sega versus Nintendo battle. And that's because of the red stuff, because of the gore. I'm talking about Robocop versus Terminator. Obviously the Super Nintendo version didn't have the ultra violence that this version did. But this was the first one I played. An absolutely, yeah, amazing game. Obviously a bit of, you know, platformer, badass weapons, some friggin' awesome enemies that you come across. Soundtrack is fantastic, a bit of a rock track. I absolutely love it. Again, another pick up and play, blast your way through, switch on, switch off. It's happy days. Yeah, Robocop versus Terminator for the Mega Drive. Right, shit just got real. We're down to the final 4. This is the 3rd Game Boy game that I ever owned. So first one, obviously, I mean, it was Tetris. It was kind of a packing game. Second game was Super Mario Land. This third one, I'll be honest, when I first got it, I don't think I appreciated it as much as I now do over the years. I've grown to love it, perhaps because it wasn't as, you know, commonplace as some of the other games that was my mates had or I saw in adverts. But yeah, I very quickly grew to love it. Gargoyle's Quest. It's a Capcom game. Has a bit of a early Zelda feel for it, but top down as you're working your way around, you know, various kind of towns, interacting with people. But as you come across an enemy or you hit a certain point in the game, it just flows into a lovely little platformer. You know, the gargoyle Firebrand can only do a limited jump. He's got kind of a limited weapon to start off with, but as you progress through, you know, you're flying all over the place by the end of it. You know, bashing out the you know, some serious evil weapons against some seriously ugly enemies, and they're horrific. Even on the small screen, some of the sprites are just, you know, beautifully ugly, unconventionally attractive, but it's such a good game. I think, you know, this stuff's obviously your box complete, nicely wrapped and secured, but you know, cart only, bit of money, but not crazy prices, but really such a recommended game. So yeah, Gargoyle's Quest is my number 4. Number 3, it's a game I've spoken a lot about on the channel, and I've even done a video dedicated just to this game. It's probably not in the format that I would completely kind of recommend, and the format would be the Amiga version. Yeah, it's just one of the games on here, obviously a Codemasters game, but the game itself, Sensible Soccer, and absolutely, I mean, such a playable, you know, easy to kind of, you know, play, difficult to master, whatever the saying is. But you can score some, you know, some amazing goals, sometimes through skill, sometimes through fluke. Some of the pre and post pub battles I had with my mates, around my mate John's house and his mum and dad's like attic around this Amiga, were just, yeah, just phenomenal. And even, yeah, getting it on the Evercade is still a good version. On here, you know, really such a playable game, but it will always be a bit of a go-to sports game for me. So it's the second and final sports game in the top 10 is Sensible Soccer. So this was one of the first games I had on the Sega Master System, apart from the packing games. I'm pretty sure it was the next game I picked up. An absolute stonking game, and like a lot of the Master System games, I had to rely on the box art, and I saw this and I thought, this is pretty freaking awesome. And around that time, ninjas were the thing, but it's not the ninja. You play a really cool guy called Joe Misashi, but you probably know him a little better as Shinobi. What an absolutely fantastic game, really. And I played it after, but it's very, very true to the, you know, the arcade version. Such a good port. Some cracking enemies, some really good, you know, weapons. It made a lot of games I played after in a similar style, such as Vigilante. I was quite disappointed just because this game was so fantastic. And most years I still haven't completed the bugger, even with help from retroredsteve. I still can't finish it. But yeah, every year I will pick this game up and I will play it and I will enjoy it. Shinobi at number 2. Fuck yeah! And we are finally here. We're at number 1, and it's another game that goes back to my arcade roots. It's a game that I couldn't get within the UK. I had to order it from Japan, and it's a game. I'll be very, very honest. I bought my Sega Saturn just to play this because I'd heard and I'd seen it was as close as you were probably ever going to get to the arcade version, apart from a little bit of speech. The game, Chase HQ. And yeah, apart from Nancy, Chase HQ, barking out the briefing, the orders at the start, obviously in Japanese, that aside, the gameplay, in my opinion, is so close to the arcade. Obviously, if you agree or disagree, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. But this is a game I play very, very regularly, and just absolutely adore it. I love it in this format. Master System's got a pretty good version as well. Game Gear, obviously similar to the Master System. For the Game Boy, the fantastic Liam RetroRam got me a beautiful boxed Chase HQ on the Game Boy, which I really adore as part of the collection. So I've got a bit of a mini collection of pretty much all the Chase HQ games, and some of the other ones as well, like STI. But the go-to, the one that's really close to the arcade, has to be Chase HQ. So yeah, Chase HQ is my numero uno. And that, my friends, is my top 10. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments whether or not you thought some of the games were a bit crud, or hopefully some of them maybe would have appeared in your top 10 list, or would have ranked quite highly. But regardless, just let me know. Huge thank you to Total Level for nominating me. I'll put details below to his channel. Go and check him out if you don't already subscribe. Awesome guy, into loads of stuff, gameplay, pickups. Loves his RPGs, but equally he loves everything. Fantastic personality on the tube, so go and check him out. Last thing I've got to do is now I've got to nominate 5 people who hopefully haven't already been nominated, and who hopefully are up for doing this crazy top 10 thing and getting stuck in. But I'm sure that people would love to know what their top 10 are. So the 5 are Ali from 16 Bits and Bobs. Awesome guy. Awesome, enthusiasm. I never met anyone so joyful and cool, and who does such a great Games Master impression on the tube. So 16 Bits and Bobs. Gull Payne, fantastic guy. He was at top 5s and top 10s, around gaming, around channels. He does reviews, does so many VRs. Fantastic channels. He did one today, Metroid versus Castlevania, so I'll give a little opinion on that. If you don't already sub to him, then go ahead and check him out. A fantastic Liam RetroRam, I've built up a really good friendship with. This year, kind of trading, exchanging games, thoughts on games and toys. He bloody loves his toys, which is awesome. So yeah, again, I'll kind of extend the challenge to Liam if he hasn't already been nominated. Another fantastic mate out in Wales, retroredsteve. I expect to see a bit of a Sega Master System in there, perhaps a game beginning with a W, but we'll have to wait and see. And finally, probably the first US tuber that I interacted with, and way before I even had a channel, and he was one of the big inspirations for me, pulling my finger out and setting my channel up in February. And that is Sean, Retro Reminiscence. So yeah, that is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I guess I'll catch you in 2022. All the best. Cheers.